What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to the latest AST call-in show. And let me tell you, I am fired up. These things have quickly become my favorite things to do every single Wednesday. It gets the juices flowing, gets me out of bed, fired up, ready to roll. And I'm pretty excited for this one because there is drama out the wazoo right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are at the forefront of all NFL news. This team, every time you think it's quiet, every time you think things just couldn't get more dramatic than they get more dramatic. The ball starts rolling, things start moving, and we're still waiting on a quarterback decision. I wish I could sit here and say Aaron Rodgers had signed to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wish I could sit here and say that the quarterback is in place. I wish I could sit here and say that it's becoming boring, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are now a boring football team because their biggest moves are behind them. But I can't say that. Can't say any of that. Instead, I sit here with a ton of questions, with 13, 14 voicemails from all of you guys, with big questions about DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Najee Harris, compository picks, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, and everybody else in between. So let's waste no more time and let's dive into it. AST Call-In Show. Shout out to all of our members. If you have not become a member yet, please do so by checking out the link in the description below. You can become a member at any time. Get the number. Call in every Wednesday. Leave me voicemails. We'll have a good time, and I'll make sure to answer all your questions. Let's get it.
What is up, all Steelers Nation? I got a question for Noah and Nick. I'm not sure why you guys think that a shorter deal is good for Fields.
Okay.
If you could get him for $20 million a year and sign him at $100 million for 5 years.
Yep.
In 5 years, you're going to think that that's a deal. I don't understand why everyone wants to cheap chisel in the beginning. And then when he becomes great, in the next two years, he becomes great, and then you got to pay up for him. Why don't you take a chance on the guy? It's only $20 million a year, and that's not all guaranteed money. So
True.
I'd like to know your thoughts, Noah. Anyways, have a good day in the bird.
Shout out. So the reason I kept this one in, because it was from, I think, just after the show last week, last Thursday, last Friday, something like that, when Justin Fields was still a possibility for the Steelers, was to address the long-term situation, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers and their inability to land Justin Fields, who goes to the New York Jets on a 2-year, $40 million deal with $30 million dollars guaranteed. And to be honest with you, I don't think he would have taken anything longer unless it came with more guaranteed money. And that's where the Steelers stand. But at the same time, why not take a risk? Well, I'll explain why the Steelers, at least in their eyes, did not take a risk. And that is because they are very nervous about messing up the quarterback position once again. That they are now sitting here and they are not looking at this as we need a trial run, we need the next thing, we need to try something else out. They look at it simply as we have to get this one remotely right. We have to set ourselves up for what is now the next one to be correct. Otherwise, they're in a boatload of trouble. And every time they mess up, every time a quarterback decision goes south, it gets worse and worse and worse. Their situation gets deeper. They lose years on TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick and guys now like DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth and the entire offensive and defensive line. Guys that they are relying on to win a Super Bowl who won't be here forever. And they can't take those risks anymore. I think there's a chance Justin Fields turns out to be extraordinary in New York. I also think that New York is one of the places in the NFL that quarterbacks go to die. So I wish him nothing but the best. I am always pro player. Go get paid. Go get a bunch of guaranteed money. Go set up your generational wealth for the rest of your family and live a life that is glorious. I hope everybody in the league who deserves it does that. And Justin Fields deserves to have that opportunity. We'll see if it works out. 5 years, the Steelers didn't do that. They didn't look beyond 2 years simply because they're viewing it as, we can't mess this up again. And if you're stuck with Justin for 5 years, you have a shot to mess it up pretty big.
Hey, Noah. So first question here I got is a start bench cut. And
Beautiful.
I'm going to ask you between Dante Moncrief, Josh Scobie, and Lyman Sweet. And then the second question I got is, what are your thoughts on Xavier Restrepo? Because I think he's a very talented receiver, and I think he's extremely reliable. And I was wondering if you felt the same way about that, and if the Steelers should, he should be a guy the Steelers look into, I should say. Have you heard anything about that, or is there any possibility that they would take him? Just what are your thoughts?
All right, so starting with the start bench cut, which is phenomenal. I think you gotta start as This is wild. Shout out Lima Swede. You know what I mean? At least he did something here for a little bit. It was a kick returner. Wasn't awful at it most of the time. The original number 14, Lima Sneed. He gets the start. Do you bench Josh Scobie? Was he somehow? No, he was worse. Dante Moncrief didn't even. I think I'm benching Dante Moncrief. I don't know. Just because, I feel bad for the guy. I was there. I was in the locker room, man. I saw it. I saw it happen. And it was bad. It was bad. I wasn't around for Josh Scobie, so I didn't see how bad that got. I saw how bad Dante Moncrief got. I saw how brutal it was during those drops. I'm benching Dante Moncrief. I am trading for or cutting Josh Scobie. That's a great one. As of the wide receiver, when it comes to he made a lot of noise at Miami this season. Him and Cam Ward look great. My only issue with him is he's a very reliable set of hands. He's a great blocker. He's physical. He's Roman Wilson. That's who he is. And I don't think the Steelers need another Roman Wilson. He's a slot-only option. I think he's like 5'10", 5'9", something like that. So he's not big enough to play on the outside. The Steelers have their slot guys. And I think that's the only drawback for me when it comes to this situation is the Steelers don't need another Calvin Austin or another Roman Wilson. They have enough of them. They need some outside guys. They have no depth on the outside. That's where they should approach in the NFL draft. That's probably where they are approaching in the NFL draft. I do not think that he is going to be an option for the Pittsburgh Steelers simply because of his size and the role he plays and how the Pittsburgh Steelers already have an abundance of slot guys.
Hey, Noah, it's Ernie Jones. I just got a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Remember how on the show that Ben was teasing about coming back because of DK Metcalf?
Yeah.
I was wondering if Ben could be a quarterback coach to revive young talent like Jalen Milroe, Will Howard, Jackson Dart, and all of them. Do you think that could be possible? I'll talk to you later. Bye.
So I think Ben coming back as a quarterback would be more awesome than Ben coming back as a quarterback's coach. I don't know if it's possible. That's how I view this is right now when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know where that relationship stands. I'm sure it's fine, but I don't think it's high enough, good enough for Ben to be considered like a coaching prospect right now. I also don't think Ben's interested in coaching where we stand currently. I mean, coaches put in more work than players. It's crazy how much time you get away from your family to be an NFL coach. It's actually absurd. Like, I feel bad for these guys a lot of times. And I don't know how well his podcast is doing, but it might be a pay cut compared to his podcast. I think he'd be a great coach. Don't get me wrong. I think Ben Roethlisberger would do a lot of really good things. And I think that he could teach young guys who develop like him to do a lot of really good things that he only was able to see through the eyes of playing quarterback in the NFL. I don't think it's sometimes it's a Steph Curry can't teach anybody how to shoot a three thing. But I think with Ben, there's a lot of tangible stuff that he would be able to manipulate into somebody else's mindset. I think that would work. I don't know if the Steelers would ever consider that. I don't know if Ben would ever consider that. Where we stand right now, I don't think it's a possibility anytime soon.
What's up, Noah? It's Cody. Man, I'm just wondering if anyone told Justin Fields what happens to people that go to the Jets. I mean, you think Lev Bell would have said something about it, considering he ended his career there and he's been, trying to come back into Pittsburgh ever since. I don't think it's such a bad thing that we're getting Rodgers. He just seems kind of old and isn't, he's good in the pocket at least, I guess, but our offensive line, they need to really hold it up for him if that's our option. We have DK and George Pickens. I mean, Joe Smoke could throw them the ball, you would think. Anyone, really. Hopefully, I'll just be happy with anyone to this point. Earlier today on the show, you had mentioned getting a quarterback. I'm assuming it's going to be like a later draft pick quarterback. Because, how do you think it would, are they still going to do D-line first and then running back in the third? Do you think they're going to trade back? Or do you think that, I'm just curious how you think things are going, man. And I appreciate you trying to keep everyone hyped up about Rodgers. I watched the show today and I was sitting there thinking, I don't have no hope for this guy, but at least you're trying to, get it going. So I appreciate you. You have a good day.
Shout out, man. I appreciate you as always. When it comes to the draft, we'll start with the draft, then we'll go Rodgers hype. When it comes to the draft, I still anticipate the Steelers going defensive tackle in the first round. That's just where I see things aligning for them. They have great prospects there that'll be available at 21. I think it's a game-changing position for them. I know a lot of people are saying you got to go running back. You got to go. Defensive tackle can change the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Running back could too, but the Philadelphia Eagles, as much as Saquon got them there, didn't win the Super Bowl because of Saquon. They won the Super Bowl because of their defensive line and the ability to draft there and build there. So I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers as a team that is ready to build the defensive front and really solidify that thing. And that's where I see them going in the first round. That hasn't changed for me. If it does, I'll let you guys know, obviously. But for right now, that's where I see them going. I think a quarterback in the third round makes a lot of sense. I think a quarterback in the fourth round makes a lot of sense. Depends on where the running backs are, depends on where your draft picks stand by the time that the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. George Pickens could be gone and the Pittsburgh Steelers could have another second round pick available to them. And that changes everything. They could trade up somehow to go get somebody if they view a Jalen Milroe or a Will Howard or a Jackson Dart as their guy. They were very impressed with Quinn Ewers. That's a name to watch. They were very impressed with Trey Henderson out of Ohio State, running back. That's a name to watch there in the second and the third round to see if the Steelers make a move for them. I think a lot of things change. Right now, I expect a third, maybe a fourth round quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, somebody to learn behind Aaron Rodgers. And then when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, man, I'm just trying. I'm trying. It could be worse. It could be way worse. That's how I view it. Teams have, Will Levis is the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans right now, and that's worse. I look at it as the New York Giants have Tommy DeVito. That's worse. They might end up with Russell Wilson. That's worse. Aaron Rodgers coming to a team where the team is built and then they just plug in a quarterback. That's not the worst situation. This isn't the Jets where the Jets needed Rodgers. The Steelers don't need Rodgers. Rodgers kind of needs the Steelers, and I think that works more in the Steelers' favor.
What's going on, Noah and Nick? This is Kevin K8. We're coming in with another hot take with Aaron Rodgers. I love the idea. I know he's 41 years old. A lot of people have some concerns. I truthfully think that the biggest concerns most people have with is more their opinions on Rodgers, the person, and not the football player. I said in a previous message, not sure if you'll use it, but he's the most gifted thrower of the football I've seen in my 40 years of life. I think with the addition of DK Metcalf, having a DK Metcalf and a George Pickens, on top of the fact that Aaron Rodgers is IQ quarterback, so calling audibles and knowing where to go when the plays break down is much more in his game than a Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. So I'm curious from your standpoint why he's not much higher on other people's lists as far as getting us a Super Bowl win over the next 2 to 3 years. Once again, appreciate all you guys do.
Shout out my boy Carl Spackler, excuse me. When it comes to Aaron, again, just like I said, I look at Aaron a couple of years ago is the guy, like if he ends up in Pittsburgh, wild. People are losing their minds. Can't believe Aaron Rodgers ended up in Pittsburgh. That's how you replace Ben. That's incredible. He's been on a downward spiral. But New York is not a team that builds quarterbacks or has success at quarterbacks. That's just not what they do. They're a team where you go to play quarterback and struggle. That is what the New York Jets are. And maybe Aaron Rodgers comes to Pittsburgh and stinks. That is a real possibility. But maybe Aaron Rodgers comes to Pittsburgh and realizes that Jaylen Warren and whoever the number 2 running back, whether that's Kenneth Gainwell or somebody else, that's the primary focus of the offense. Maybe he comes to Pittsburgh and realizes DK Metcalf is much better than Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, that the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is actually built to succeed, unlike the Jets that isn't built at all. Maybe he finds that there are less Band-Aids in Pittsburgh these days than there were in New York, and maybe that leads to success. Again, the Steelers are built to win. They need to find a quarterback. The Jets were buying Aaron Rodgers so that they can win. That's what they were doing. It's different. And that's my only pushback to those who say Aaron Rodgers is a bad choice. Is the Steelers, if Mason Rudolph came to Pittsburgh, people would say there's a chance that Mason Rudolph can win some games here. Mason Rudolph is not a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. He is not. And Aaron Rodgers in a team that is built to win and just needs a quarterback could succeed. And that's not the Jets. That wasn't the Jets. Maybe that's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and maybe it works out better for the Pittsburgh Steelers and for Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, Noah, Stephen Cornfield again. How you doing?
Yes, sir.
Hopefully it's a beautiful morning in the Berg. Well, today I just kind of wanted to vent out just a little bit of frustration with the Steelers. Like, all right, so the Steelers, they used to be like, you know, that tough, rough team, you know, and they draft and then they breed their own. And it seems like nowadays, like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, we're just bringing in random QBs. We're bringing in, I mean, DK Metcalf, that's great. I mean, if you consider it like a poker hand, it's like, all right, you get an ace and then you get a joker. Like, well, maybe with Aaron Rodgers, who knows? Like, what are the Steelers doing now? Oh man, this is just not the team I used to know. Have a good day, Noah.
Steven, my man, I appreciate you. Hope the UPS packages are light and feeling good these days with the bright, warm weather wherever you're at. When it comes to the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, look it. The plug and play quarterback is never the answer. It's not going to work. You know, even if you go back to the Tom Brady and the Aaron Rodgers or the Peyton Mannings and say that these guys made it work in another team. Yeah, but they weren't plug and play. This franchise is trying to make a splash, and they went out and got the greatest quarterback, the second greatest quarterback of their generations. That's what they did. Aaron Rodgers at this point is a plug and play. But the Steelers don't have any other options except for plug and play. That's just where they're at. They didn't have a Sam Darnold available. And I don't think Sam Darnold was the right move. Like, if you're willing to pay him $100 million, great. You better have a surefire situation around him. Seattle does not. Pittsburgh does not. I just don't think that Sam Darnold for the next 5 years is a surefire bet that gets you any further than Geno Smith would have or that Derek Carr would have. And that's where the Steelers are. Like, they don't have that option, unfortunately. They haven't had that option in a while. Kenny Pickett was that option. It didn't work out. And I don't think Kenny Pickett was the answer. I really don't. I think Kenny Pickett was that good of a quarterback. I mean, we'll find out this year when he's playing the Steelers for the Browns, but I just don't view him as, or view anybody that's come through Pittsburgh as like the long-term solution. Justin Fields was the closest thing, and paying Justin Fields, I think, would have made sense, but I'm not upset about not paying Justin Fields $30 million. I think that's too much money for a quarterback that you are not positive on. And this is not like, that's the difference. Drafting a quarterback in the first round, if you know that that quarterback is worth a first round grade, which is different than drafting Jackson Dart with 21, then you're taking a risk that's educated. You're taking a risk that sets yourself up for 5 years of success at a low budget cost, where if things go awry, there's really nothing holding you back from moving on. They have enough potential to most likely move them for something. And again, if it's worth the first round value, it's a risk that's worth taking. Signing a veteran who, if he stinks this year and you still have to pay him $10 million next year, you're not getting rid of Justin Fields. Nobody's going to want him. They're going to look at him as used goods. You're going to get a 6th round pick for him, and that's it. And chances are you're going to eat some of that money. It's not going to work out. The Steelers don't have that situation. I don't know when the next time they'll be presented with the situation to find a long-term quarterback will be. I don't think it's going to be this year, but I don't know when it's going to be. It's been a rough time. And you could circle this all the way back, man. I mean, I hate to be the guy that puts the blame on Ben, but a large chunk of this has to go on Ben. A large chunk. And people are going to call me out and be like, that's ridiculous. Never. Ben was the greatest. I think Ben was phenomenal. First ballot Hall of Famer, first guy to get into the Hall of Fame in his Hall of Fame class. Ben was the dude. Missing him and overlooking him at the end, and anybody who wanted him out was crazy, because he was hands down the biggest blessing the Steelers have had in the last decade or so, 2 decades probably. But him refusing to welcome a quarterback that would train and work and mentor behind him, or mentee behind him, that's why the Steelers are here. Because they couldn't go out and get a Jalen Hurts, because they knew Ben was just going to ruin him and do everything he could to make sure that he wasn't going to succeed, just like he did with Mason. And they just never had that opportunity. When Ben blew his elbow out, the Steelers should have sat there and said, Ben, you're coming back. You're going to be our guy, but we don't know how much longer you have left. And because of that, we have to have a succession plan, and you have to be okay with it. And you have to actually help the succession plan succeed. They didn't do that. That's on the Steelers for doing that one. It's on Ben for being stubborn enough to be intimidating enough not to have that happen. So it's a twofold system. That's where they messed up. It's not since, it's beforehand. That's why the Steelers are here.
Hello, Tony Patrick here. So it's Tuesday morning, and Pittsburgh doesn't have a quarterback, which means they're probably going to get a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers who's full of drama and gets mad when his receivers don't run the correct routes, and now you have DK Metcalf and Pickens.
Shout out Mike Williams.
As for not getting a quarterback, I think that has Tomlin's hands all over it, because he can't stand being called wrong, and he knows he was wrong about benching Fields for Wilson, and he doesn't want Fields around looking for that. I remind him of that mistake. So they waited too long. And the third thing is, I hope that they don't now use that as an excuse to draft Jackson Dart in the first round.
I agree.
What a nightmare that would be. I like him, but not in the first round. Tell me what you think. Bye.
So, look, I think Mike did or should have realized his mistake with Russ. I think by the end of it, he did realize his mistake with Russ. I think he viewed it as, I messed up. Should have went to Justin Fields. You kind of felt it in his voice. Not that he was ever going to admit he's wrong, but you kind of felt it in his voice. When it came to this offseason decision, it was all money. It was all money. The Steelers, all the reports and rumors about Justin Fields not being guaranteed a starting job, nonsense. They're all lies. It's money. It's been money since the jump. Justin knew he was going to get paid in New York. He knew that he was going to get more money in New York. He knew that this was his opportunity to get paid, and he wanted to get paid, and he should get paid. I mean, $30 million is awesome. If you don't work out, you still made $30 million bucks. That's fantastic. It came down to money. It wasn't Mike saying, I don't want Justin and we're not going to pay him enough because I don't want him around. When it comes to Mike and where they go next, I'm not ruling out Jackson Dart in the first round. I'm not ruling out Quinn Ewers in the first round, or Will Howard in the first round, or Jalen Milroe in the first round. And your eyes should be popping, everybody, because that is very alarming. And it is not my choice at all. I do not support any thought of a first-round quarterback. I have not. I will not. At any point, I will not support a first-round quarterback in this year's draft at 21. Won't happen. But I won't rule it out. I think it's very, very unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out because the Steelers could look at this and say, Jackson Dart's got upside. Jalen Milroe's got upside. We got to have somebody. We're going to overreact again. I hope not, but I think it's a possibility. I also think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, which, look, at everybody's going to laugh about the drama, man. I think we're in for a funny season. Entertaining one, at least. You know what I mean? Gives you something to always watch and always keep an eye on Monday through Saturday. So gives you something to talk about, gives you some attention to have towards the Pittsburgh Steelers when there's no football being played.
I know, and next, Doug Blystone from Philadelphia. Curious what your thoughts are on Joe Milton and what it would take to get him in Pittsburgh, as well as if you would see him as a starter given the situation with the quarterbacks at this stage.
All right, Joe Milton. We talked a little bit about Joe Milton yesterday on the podcast. I'll talk a little bit more about him now. In my eyes, Joe Milton is not a starter in 2025, but I do like him as a backup option for Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is going to be the guy, if that's who you're going to view as your starting quarterback in 2025, bring Joe Milton in and say, that's the athleticism that we want. That's the guy that can succeed in the NFL. Joe Milton is a 4th-round pick in this year's draft class, maybe a little bit higher. He's Jalen Milroe, essentially. That's a guy that's worth going to get for a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick if that's the way that the Steelers view him, and if that's the way that the Patriots view him, as a guy that's expandable, that are expendable. If they could get rid of him and they're just going to take the highest bid, go make an offer. Go make a cheap offer and see if you can land Joe Milton. You're not urgent. It's not a pressing situation to go out and get him. But at the same time, it could work, and he could be a good backup. He could be a good future starter. I don't know. I think it's a long shot for 6th-round quarterbacks to succeed in the NFL, no matter what draft class they're in. I get it, Brock Purdy, but that is so rare. It's crazy. But I'm not against him. I think it's a good move. I think I like it better than a Tyler Shuck out of Louisville or a Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame. I like Joe Milton. I think Joe Milton's got potential. I don't know what that potential is. The Steelers really liked Joe Milton last year at the draft, and they didn't get their hands on him, but they really liked Joe Milton as a late-round pick in the NFL draft. I would not be surprised if they at least make a phone call and see, hey, what's the price tag for Joe Milton? Would you be open to trading him? And then go from there.
Hey, Noah. But what do you think about Aaron Rodgers? I know you've talked about it a lot, but I don't know if you've really given more, 100% true opinion on him. Honestly, the more and more I sit with it, I would much rather have him, I guess, than Russ.
Yeah.
We know what he is. And him, DK, and George Pickens would just be crazy stories.
It would be crazy stories. I mean, the content would be unreal. But so selfishly, I'm all about it. You could ask my wife every time that an Aaron Rodgers update goes by. She will text me and just be like, are they really getting Aaron Rodgers? Like, is this really happening? Because we've joked about it all offseason about how content-wise, it does not get any better. It does not get any better. Player-wise, I guess I have not given my opinion on Aaron Rodgers. I will give my opinion on Aaron Rodgers, and I appreciate you, Maddie, for asking. Aaron Rodgers, to me, is the best bet for the Steelers right now. I don't see why you wouldn't view him as the best bet for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Fields, in my opinion, I was okay with letting him walk for too much guaranteed money, and that's how I viewed him, as too much guaranteed money. Aaron Rodgers, if you don't have to guarantee him anything in year 2, if you could look at it and say, here's $30 million, here's $40 million in year 1, we owe you nothing in year 2, I'm okay with it. And I think Aaron Rodgers really does have more left in the tank than his time in New York says. I think Aaron Rodgers was on it's like if Aaron Rodgers went to the Browns and then went somewhere else. Everybody would just say, you went to the Browns, man. Like, you weren't going to succeed in the Browns. That wasn't going to happen. That's how I view New York. That's how I view the Jets. I think the Steelers really could pull this one off. I really do think that the Steelers get better with Aaron Rodgers than they were with Russ a year ago. I don't view it as a negative. I don't care about the price tag this year as long as you could pay everybody else that you need to pay, and the Steelers look like they've already done that. They got to ink TJ Watt, but that's the big one. I think Aaron Rodgers is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, a 4-time NFL MVP, and his resume alone is something you take a shot on. That's all the Steelers can do right now is take a shot. What's the best shot? Aaron Rodgers is the best shot. That's how I view him. Do I think he makes them a contender? I'm not going to say yes, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that they're going to go 5-12. I think that if Aaron Rodgers is going to play with Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin and DK Metcalf and potentially George Pickens and an offensive line that is set up to win and a defense that is already good and just needs to fix themselves a little bit and a running game that I am much more excited about this season than I was last season. Yeah, I think the pieces are there. And he wasn't the best option, but where we sit here right now, he is not the worst. And he's far from the worst, in my opinion.
Hey, Nick and Noah. This is Hayes Hancock calling once again from Las Vegas, Nevada. I hope that you all are doing well. So I could see that we obviously did not re-sign Justin Fields, and I actually don't hate that. I'm not as distraught as all the other Steelers fans out there. I definitely do think that he was the best option on the board this year for quarterback. But I went to Allegiant Stadium this last year, saw the Steelers play the Raiders, and I did watch him airmail a few passes directly over receivers' heads that were wide open.
Yes.
It kind of made me think that, he does definitely need some more coaching and just has to learn how to play better. Obviously, with the Steelers having him right there and not re-signing them, that kind of reinforces my idea that he, still needs some work and they don't really see him being our future 5 years down the road. Otherwise, we would have made that decision. However, since we did decide to move on from him, I actually totally and fully, truly believe that we need to go get Aaron Rodgers. I think that he is the perfect person for our team. I definitely think that we need to go pick up somebody else as a rookie this year. Like, I would love to have Jackson Dart come in and sit behind Aaron Rodgers, but I definitely think that Aaron Rodgers has the skill. I think that he would be a great quarterback in his final few seasons to coach up someone new for us. And
Agreed.
Also, I don't know if you paid attention to this or not, but we are actually running through the NFC North next year.
Yep.
And I definitely know that Aaron Rodgers would be very enticed to go play against Green Bay again, and especially to walk into Soldier Field once again and prove that he still owns the Bears. So I definitely think that we need to go make a decision like that. However, now that I guess we can move forward into my real question that I have, and I'm not sure how, trading works and what you're allowed to do and if you can get a player back or whatever, but I might sound crazy saying this. We passed up on Justin Fields, and I'm looking at all the other quarterbacks on the board and what's going on, and I can't help but think, especially after seeing yesterday, the Browns traded a 5th-round pick to get Kenny Pickett. And I don't know why I'm sitting here thinking that Kenny Pickett could have been a great quarterback for us. We actually have a competent offensive coordinator now. We have some real weapons on the offense. He knows the coaches. He knows our scheme and everything else. I really think that if it was possible for us to have gotten Kenny Pickett back, I really think we could have done some damage next year. Either way, though, I want to know your whole thoughts on the situation. I definitely, like I said, think that we for sure need to go get old man Rodgers, have him play for us. I think that he has a little bit left in the tank to give, especially 2 years removed from his injury. And I would love to see us pick up someone like a Jackson Dart in the draft this year. You all have a great day. Thank you.
Shout out. So let's start with Aaron Rodgers real fast. And I agree. I think right now where we stand, the Pittsburgh Steelers' best bet is Aaron Rodgers. I think he would love to go to Soldier Field one more time and show Chicago that he still owns that city. I think he would love to play the Vikings one more time. I think going to Dublin for your last run against the Green Bay Packers and getting a shot to win that game, I mean, come on, that's huge. That would be so awesome. That's the retirement tour that Aaron Rodgers deserves. And I think it would be so fitting to see all of that happen. when it comes to Kenny Pickett, I knew that's where it was going. I don't know why, but I knew that's where it was going. I like Kenny Pickett as a backup quarterback, but Kenny Pickett, man, Kenny Pickett ain't going to win you a Super Bowl. And I'll be very blunt about it. He's just not. He doesn't have the processing time. His upside, his ceiling, I just don't think is anywhere near what it needs to be to like really truly be an elite quarterback in the NFL. Again, I think he's a phenomenal backup. I think he's a good leader, but I also don't think that he is the guy that takes you above Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And that's what the Steelers are looking for right now. The guy that can get them over the hump of Lamar, Josh, and Patrick. That's not going to be Kenny for a fifth round. I mean, if you got him for a fifth and somehow you traded Kenny Pickett for nothing, you got Kenny. Essentially, you just traded Kenny Pickett just to get a fourth round pick and Kenny Pickett back. That's what would happen. I mean, that would be hilarious. It'd be comical. I think it would work out. It would be an Omar con artist move that we would love to see. I just don't think Kenny's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't know if that's going to change at all. Even with Arthur Smith, there were just things like the processing, the nerves in the backfield. He was a roll to your left every single time type of guy. Doesn't stand in there to take a hit unless he absolutely has to. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying Kenny's weak. He's a tough dude. It's just his brain. It's the way it processes things. It's get out of the pocket, avoid this. And you don't need to do that every single time. I don't know if Kenny has it to be a full-time starting quarterback in the NFL. I definitely don't think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback in the NFL, although he's got a ring. So shout out Kenny Pickett. I think this year Rodgers is a better bet. I hear you with Kenny, but I think Aaron Rodgers is a better bet.
Hey, Noah, it's Maddie. I was just wondering, what do you think about getting Joe Milton from the Patriots? Even if it's only like a short-term plan, I think it would be a good idea. Behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, and if he goes down, at least we'd have an idea of who we have behind him, because he's 41 years old. He's not getting any younger.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers might,
True.
Take a turn at some point, which is crazy to say. But what do you think the chances realistically are of getting Joe Milton? And what do you think the chances are of getting Aaron Rodgers at this point? And where does Russ stand in all this? Is there someone in between that they're trying to get? Like, is it Aaron Rodgers, someone else, and then Russ? Or is it Aaron Rodgers, Russ, then someone else?
All right. That's a great question. When it comes to the realistic chance of Joe Milton, I honestly don't know right now. I think a lot of it plays on the Patriots and their willingness to trade him, which I don't know what that is. If they are willing, the Steelers will make a phone call. I'll say that. Chances Aaron Rodgers ends up in Pittsburgh. I mean, I just put a story out this morning where an anonymous GM told Steelers on SI he believes, just like the rest of the NFL, that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up in Pittsburgh, and that's where he's going to end up. When it comes to Russ and the backup plans, Russ is the backup plan, but the Steelers they'd look elsewhere first. They would. I would imagine Kirk Cousins gets a phone call from the Pittsburgh Steelers if Aaron Rodgers doesn't work out. I would imagine the Patriots call about Joe Milton. I would imagine Carson Wentz's name gets brought up. I would imagine Jameis Winston's name gets brought up. I just think the Steelers are looking to avoid Russell Wilson at all costs. They don't think he's got a market. If he's super cheap, great, but I don't think they view him as like a Super Bowl winning starting quarterback in 2025. It's like their last option. Would he become their favorite after Aaron Rodgers? Definitely. But I think they'd go and test every other market they can before inking Russell Wilson, to a deal.
I know, and Nick of Lifestone from Philadelphia. Curious what your thoughts are on Joe Milton and what it would take to get him in Pittsburgh, as well as if you would see him as a starter given the situation with the quarterbacks at this stage. Thanks.
All right, shout out Philadelphia, dude. I every time I get your phone call, I text my sister and say, hey, when am I coming to Philly? Because it just reminds me that I should probably go to Philly. I love Philadelphia. And I know in the city of Pittsburgh, that's a sin, but I love Philadelphia. What it would take to get Joe Milton. I think a 5th round pick gets it done with ease. I think a 7th round pick, there's a conversation to be had. I think a 6th round pick, there's a conversation to be had. I think a 5th is where you top it off. I don't think I'd go any higher than a 5th round pick. I think a 5th rounder, the Patriots bump themselves up. The Steelers get a quarterback that can develop into something, maybe. And Jordan Schultz reported that they're talking. They're Joe Milton and the Patriots have had discussions about possibly moving on, and they want to do him right by putting him in a place. And that kind of reminds you of Chicago and Justin Fields and that situation. I think Joe Milton for a 6th round pick to Pittsburgh or a 7th round pick to Pittsburgh makes a ton of sense. And I think that's where the number is in my head that could work out.
Hey, Noah, it's Cody in New Mexico. I was wondering, with us losing Fields and like Dan Moore and, just people like that, are we going to have more picks in next year's draft, or how exactly does that work? Thank you.
Great question. Great question. Glad to end on this note. The Steelers will add most likely a boatload of picks next year. They are pulling full Ravens, which the Ravens, if you go back, have over 60 draft picks added to the NFL draft since 1994 when compensatory picks were put into place. As for the Steelers this year, I know somebody, I was hit up yesterday a couple of times like, hey, I thought the Steelers were getting comp picks. They weren't. That's from last year. Next year is the 2025 free agency class. And with that, they are expected to get a 3rd round pick for Dan Moore Jr., a 4th round pick, maybe a 3rd, but most likely a 4th round pick for Justin Fields, a 5th round pick for Najee Harris, and then 2 6th round picks for Dante Jackson and James Daniels, which is a boatload of money. And I don't know if this was asked to me somewhere, if I did not put this one in here, but I know I listened to it this morning at some point. Somebody asked, would you hold on to George Pickens? And I apologize that I did not play this. If I did play it and overlooked it, I don't know. But somebody asked, when it comes to George Pickens, if you hold on to him and let him go next year instead of this year, do you get a 1st or a 2nd round pick in return for him? The answer to that is no. Compensatory picks, comp picks start in round 3. So it goes 3 to 7, I believe, maybe 3 to 6. And that's where it would start. Whereas in trading George Pickens this year, probably gets you at least a 2nd round pick, I would imagine, maybe a little bit more. But that's where the Steelers would benefit most from trading George Pickens. If they just settle with him for a year, which I think is unlikely, but I do think there's the possibility of it. If they settle with him for a year and let him walk in free agency next year, I don't know what the comp pick would be, but I would start as a 3rd rounder, and it would go towards, I think it would be a 3rd rounder because it depends on how much they've played, I believe, plus their draft capital. There's a couple of factors. And it would be roughly a 3rd round pick for George Pickens, which I think is, depending on what he signs, is somewhere else, which I think is, valuable for George to get something for him. But at the same time, you're going to get more value if you trade him this year if he's not going to play. If he is going to play and he's very cool with playing on the last year of his deal, a 3rd round pick and 1 more year out of George Pickens ain't the worst thing in the world. But if you're looking to trade him, you're going to get a 2nd or a 1st round pick, most likely minimum, this year for George Pickens. All right, y'all. With that said, I'm heading out of here. I appreciate all you guys for calling in to this week's AST call-in show. Appreciate you guys. As always, these things are a blast. They get me out of bed every Wednesday. Juice is flowing. I'm fired up. It's just after 10 a.m. The Pittsburgh Steelers still do not have a quarterback. And by the time this show is released, I have a hard time believing that they will. Make sure to continue to call in, continue to email me so that I can continue to make some phone calls. I'm working through that list. It is quite long, so I appreciate everybody for being patient in the email list. And if you are not a subscriber yet, subscribe to our page, youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast and become a member in the link below in our description. With that said, we'll be back later today for the regular All Steelers Talk Show. Until then, enjoy a beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.